6 minutes after the hour of 6 a.m. in the morning. It's Monday, July 8th, 2019, 53 degrees outside. Shane Taubman, my ample co-host and sidekick and half of the show is on. He's half man, half amazing. He's up in Vancouver, British Columbia. Tom Migueloff, your morning mayor. In the house, we want to welcome you to the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom. And guess what, Shane?
Oh my God! I don't know. We almost didn't survive the weekend. Yesterday, it was the whole network was down. I don't know if it had anything to do with them posting the 5G new things, but yeah, no phones, no internet, no Wi-Fi, no GPS. It was a scary thing. People were in the streets. People were in the streets screaming.
Really? Wow. Yeah, well, being Canadians, I can understand that.
Well, it wasn't that bad. They just went to the mall. They just went to the mall and walked around.
Oh, okay. With no TV and no...
No TV, no cell, none. Nothing, honey.
Wow. Well...
Yeah, it was the 1950s all over again, but not in the way that people thought.
And you whine about our grid.
Yes, exactly. I do whine about your grid, yeah. Yeah, I know. It's incredible. It's just amazing, folks. It can happen to you.
Well, speaking of incredible, guess what? We've got nasty weather coming. Really nasty weather coming.
Look at me. It's so cold here. I'm inside a house. I'm still wearing a sweater.
Okay, well.
That's how cold it is.
Well, it isn't cold. It's tornadoes is what we're concerned about. We got tornado warnings up here. Today we're looking for scattered showers and thunderstorms, then showers and possibly a thunderstorm after 4 p.m. Some of the storms could produce small hail, gusty winds, and heavy rain. The high is only going to be near 69 or 70. And the chance of precip is about 80% today. New rainfall amounts between a tenth and a quarter of an inch. Could be more in areas with thunderstorms. And then tonight, showers and possibly a thunderstorm, mainly before 11. And then scattered showers and thunderstorms after that. Some of the storms could produce small hail, gusty winds, heavy rain, and the low will be around the upper 40s. And, chance of precip again, 80%. And, again, that could be worse in thunderstorms. But yeah, we're looking for a high of roughly 69 today. Thunderstorms virtually all day today. And into tomorrow, stopping probably around 1 o'clock or so, somewhere in there. And high tomorrow, though, is going to be 70, but we are going to have some AM thunderstorms. And then it gets nice after Tuesday. Tuesday, a high of 70, 49, and thunderstorms, of course, all day. And Wednesday, we go up to 82, and the rain just disappears flat out. Hardly a trace at all of any rain. Thursday, 83. Friday, 81, Saturday, 84, and then thunderstorms move back in the evening on Sunday at 84 degrees, and just a little bit of a precip in there, probably about a 40% chance next week. But if we can get through today and tomorrow, then, boy, it's a nice week ahead. It'll be pretty darn good out there, so... Pretty excited about that, but these next 2 days aren't going to be much fun. So keep in mind that you could get hail. There's possibility of tornadoes, and so we're going to be on the lookout. So temperatures right now around the area 56 and cloudy in Livingston right now. Manhattan's 51, Three Forks 53. Gallup Gateway is 52, Ennis 52, Big Sky is 48. And at the airport in Belgrade, it's 51 degrees right now. We're right at 54 degrees here at our downtown studios in beautiful Bozeman, Montana. And it is Monday, July 8th, and 10 minutes after the hour of 6 a.m. So that's your weather.
Cool.
Yeah. So why is it cold up there? What's going on?
Well, we have this cold front that came swinging down off the Arctic, it's supposed to be melting and humid up there, but it ends up being cold and miserable here.
Wow.
No, I'm serious. It's like December weather. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the British are at it again, of course. I don't know. How far do we have to go back with the Brits? When did the Brits start? Like 10 BC or something like that. I mean, it seems like they've been around for a long time.
A very long time ago, long before I started coughing on the radio.
I realize that. 1663, King Charles II of England granted a charter to Rhode Island. Well, the Pilgrims only landed in 1620, so what is this? 13 years later, King Charles says, "Oh yeah, you can have a charter over there. What the heck? You're the smallest state." Was it because it's the smallest state in the Union that he gave Rhode Island a charter?
No.
In 1663.
No, the dirty little secret was he was broke.
Oh, okay.
He'd been involved with the First Dutch War and the Navigation Acts of Europe at the time and trying to control his own country. So he started selling all these rights and privileges, particularly to the Pilgrims, because he didn't want them around. They were trying to clean up the Church of England and the Protestant religion in England. And
yeah.
So he found a great way of getting rid of them, and they paid him to do it.
I'm just wondering why Rhode Island be the smallest state, because, I mean, if they were 13 years after the colony, they ought to be the size of Texas. You'd think.
Yeah.
We're going to make Rhode Island pretty good size.
You got to remember the old expression, stones throw away.
Oh, okay. So nobody wanted to travel to Illinois and still be in Rhode Island, huh?
Well, no, so the guys that went out to map,
yeah,
that's what they would use to decide how far to go. Is it a stone's throw?
Okay, so they would throw a stone, and when they got tired, that was Rhode Island. Huh?
Exactly. It's like Idaho should really be, the continental divide in Montana to the west should be part of the Idaho. Idaho should be a square, all right, not a toothpick.
Oh, okay.
But the surveyors got drunk and they decided to. They went up the wrong valley, and that's why Idaho got cut off at the neck.
Oh yeah, well, good for them.
True story. Hey, I'm not kidding.
We need those mountains, for tourism.
I know.
Well, they get the other side of them.
Yeah, a bunch of drunk surveyors back in the 1800s. There you go.
Jeez. Well, in 1776, Colonel John Nixon gave the first public reading of the Declaration of Independence to a crowd gathered at Independence Square in Philadelphia.
That's right. And, boy, the relevance of this only is, well, it has nothing to do with Nixon. That's number one.
Yeah.
But the relevance was the big words manifest destiny.
Yeah.
Because that was the chant, because it was not just the fact of independence, but Americans wanted to grow the country. They knew about the Ohio Valley. Mm-hmm. They knew about the Midwest, and they wanted to grow the country. And, that became the long, big chant right up to the Great Louisiana Purchase in 1812 with Jefferson as president and so on. Polk annexing Texas because they took a vote and said they wanted to join your country.
Yeah.
The whole thing, baby. It was big time.
Wow.
1776 to 1845, your country grew huge.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty big. Yeah. Well, in 1853, an expedition led by Commodore Matthew Perry arrived at Yedo Bay, Japan, on a mission to seek diplomatic and trade relations with the Japanese.
Yeah, pretty amazing thing. The Japanese were like the Chinese and the Koreans. They didn't really want to have anything to do with anybody.
Yeah.
They were pretty they were very organized,
yeah,
and clean and very cultured. So, they weren't really into dominating anybody, just sort of building their own homeland. But anyway, the Americans forced it on them, and within 40 years, they forced them to open up to trade and the whole shebang. So there you go.
Yeah, and they got upset and declared war on us.
That's right. Well, they've done that a couple of times.
Well, that's true. Well, in 1889, the Wall Street Journal was first published, a liberal rag, except for their opinion page, I guess.
Well, it's such a fascinating story because the Wall Street Journal came about because of Hearst, who had major papers across the United States and was very conservative, and at the time was supporting what they called yellow journalism. Your president today calls it fake news. And so, people believe that Hearst got the United States into the Spanish-American War, which you ended up with Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands over. But anyway, so yeah, it's been a big success. 2.4 million people still purchasing the newspaper every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's almost beating out the New York Times. Of course, it's owned by the Fox family.
Fox News, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Murdoch family. He was a big newspaper guy in Australia, as we all know.
Yep. Well, in 1891, Warren G. Harding married Frances K. DeWolf in Marion, Ohio. Wow.
And who cares?
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I'll tell you, someone who cares about the Ag Report, and of course, as we know, every farmer, rancher out there needs to speak a foreign language. You need to speak to the Chinese. You need to speak to the Russians. And that's why we have Babbel. So here's your here's your Ag Report and Babbel. We'll be right back. 22 minutes after the hour of 6 a.m. It's Monday, July 8, 2019, 54 degrees outside. Tommy Goloff, your morning mayor in the house. Shema Tobin on the line with me, Vancouver, British Columbia. And we're involved in this day in history. So,
well, I am. I'm all excited to talk about Florence Ziegfeld, but watching you untangle wires is very, that scares the heck out of me.
Pretty entertaining, isn't it?
It looks like a minefield in that office. Okay.
That is Jacobus's fault because all week I leave the headphones hooked up here. Everything's ready to go, all week long. And of course, come Friday, you got to tear everything down for Jacobus so he can come in. And I'm sure he tangled my headphone wires all up and tied them in knots and everything. And so, yeah, it's his fault.
It's his fault. We'll blame Jacob.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. He's out to get me.
Yeah. Lawrence Edward Ziegfeld Jr. Love this guy.
Yeah.
March 21st, 1867 to July 22nd, 1932. Ziegfeld Follies Review on Broadway, 1907 to 1931. Why do I love this guy? Well, for one reason, he was the Hugh Hefner of his time. What a lucky guy.
Yeah.
He started producing musicals. He was the first to produce a musical called Showboat, we all know of, from Rodgers and Hammerstein. But, he was famous for his Follies Bernet. So it was sort of like a real cheeky type of show that he put on. And it was all about women. You'd go to the theater for an hour and a half, and bam, you'd sit there and watch all these women come out and walk around, practically nothing, but all these beautiful, ravishing outfits. And made a fortune, but he made people favorites like Irving Berlin and George Gershwin and Jerome Kern, and of course Nora Bayes. Fanny Price was, like we know, funny lady. Ruth Edding, W.C. Fields, Eddie Cantor, and Marilyn Miller, Will Rogers because of his music, Burt Williams, and Pennington. Now, why is this important? Well, it was 117 years ago. The United States was coming into the beginning of the industrial age and moving away from an agrarian economy. But people had money; they had disposable income. And he created the theater. If it wasn't for this guy, there wouldn't be the 12 theaters, on Theater Row, downtown New York City. So, important guy to American history, music, and entertainment. He was the beginning. The Ziegfeld Theater sat 1,600 people. Cost him $2.5 million back there. That would be like $250 million today.
Wow, pretty good. 1919, President Woodrow Wilson received a tumultuous welcome in New York City after his return from the Versailles Peace Conference in France. Wow.
Yeah. What do I want to talk about the first progressive liberal conservative for? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Not worth our time.
Yeah.
1950s, General Douglas MacArthur was named Commander-in-Chief of United Nations forces in Korea.
That's right. He got the call from one of his least detractors, which was President Truman, to save the day, and he did. Of course, we all know that. His move around the peninsula because they were stuck in the bottom of it, all the forces, and up the coast and across the 34th parallel. So, I mean, the Incheon landing is classic military, teaching today in all the, military schools. It's guy's brilliant, just brilliant.
He was pretty smart.
18 years old, he was a graduate with a lieutenant, walking across the dead man's land with his cane and his gun, firing at the enemy, and didn't get hit once. The guys with him couldn't believe it. How is it possible this guy openly is walking across dead man's land in World War I and nobody can shoot him? Amazing.
Why did he have a cane?
Because it was his style. Before he had a cob pipe, he had a cane.
Oh.
Okay. He needed
like a walking stick, not a cane,
like
I guess. A walking
yeah.
stick, yeah, okay.
All
right. Well, in 1986, Kurt Waldheim was inaugurated as president of Austria, despite controversy over his alleged ties to Nazi war crimes.
Yeah, which came out even more after his death. But, he's one of those guys. It's like Senator Byrd in the United States, from Virginia, Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
A wizard of the KKK,
Yeah.
Obama, Vice President Biden, Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, all at his funeral. What is it called when you get up and you eulogize?
Yeah, you eulogize the guy.
Obama,
yeah.
Biden, Clinton, and both the Clintons eulogized a wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. The last recognized member of the Ku Klux Klan of the U.S. Senate.
Why not?
There you go, buddy.
Yeah.
What a contrast.
That's the great thing about America.
Isn't it great?
Yeah, we forgive everybody,
Yeah.
Well, in 1944, Kim Il-sung, North Korea's communist leader since 1948, died at the age of 82, and that would be Kim Jong-il's father and Kim Jong-un's grandfather.
That's right. And I don't know why someone doesn't put this guy. I mean, I guess that's why they had that summit in Vietnam, right? Because, Trump just said I'm sure he had to say to him, look, Hanoi still runs this country. They were just like you and dying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's meet there so you can see how bad it is.
Yeah. Then, 20 years ago, they decided to come to our side and look at the place now. And they're still in charge. So what do you.
Yeah, there you are. Yeah. Well, they still have statues of both of them hanging around outside of every building in Korea, I guess. So, yeah.
Well, that's the thing about communism. You got to, the fearless leaders got to be held up.
Yeah. There we go. All right, we've got to take a quick break. We got news at the bottom of the hour. Brooke Foster's back with the weather. She must have been on vacation, I guess.
I guess, or avoiding your Chronicle news.
Well, that's true. That may be it. All right, Fox News, Brooke Foster with the weather. Also, Credit Karma, can't beat that. And a little message from Rush Limbaugh. So we'll be right back right after these important words. 25 minutes for the top of the hour. It is Monday, July 8th, 2019, 53 degrees outside. Shane Matabin on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. Tom Eagle, your morning mayor in the house. Jeff Krause will be in tomorrow, and we'll have a special guest in this morning. John Russell is going to join us regarding his book on the Story family here in Bozeman. Has a new book out, and you may remember John used to read the news here with George Carter, and they used to banter back and forth like Shane and I do from time to time, except they often disagreed on many issues, so it was quite entertaining radio to listen to the two of them. John was in our production room right next door, so we'll be hearing his familiar voice to some of you. If you've been longtime listeners, the voice of John Russell will be extremely familiar to you. And John will be in here about 7 o'clock. Yeah, he'll be in here in about a half an hour. So we'll enjoy talking to him about his new book and learn all about it. Do you have street lights in Vancouver? Are you that advanced, Shane?
Well, we are. Actually, they've just changed them over from the, I can't think what they call it, the electric ones with,
incandescent bulbs?
Yeah, two LED lights. Wow, what a difference there.
LED.
I mean, sorry.
Yeah, they're not leg lights. They're LED lights.
They're LED lights. LED.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, right.
Yeah, but they're remarkable, incredibly remarkable. They're not as glaring. They're brighter.
Yeah.
They're an orange color instead of a white, and illuminate much clearer and much broader area. So, and 1/10 the cost. So there you go.
Wow. Well,
we're ahead of you guys.
Well,
we're ahead of you guys.
Yeah. Well, we have a problem. Our street lights too bright. I mean, this is the glaring factors that our city commission has to face.
Yeah. They're arc lights, and they're very bright. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to address concerns of street lights shining into people's homes, does your light shine into your home, illuminate your roof, whatever?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's it's
pretty nice, huh? Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe the city commission should head up to Vancouver and see what you guys are doing. But anyway, the city of Bozeman is going to do an audit on its lights. So the city will probably begin the study in August and end in September. And plans for the audit come after the city identified updating streetlights as one of its top budget priorities this year, right behind bike paths, I guess, maybe. I don't know. That's one of the top priorities there. Open spaces and, no parking anywhere unless you have a bike, priorities. But Jeff Krause, you can put this on the Krause list tomorrow, city lights, because Jeff thinks the lighting standard needs to be updated. He's pointed it out many times. And he claims the house eliminates his roof and comes on intruding into his home. And other Bozeman residents have said the same thing. So they last updated the street light standards in 2017 with more than 200 new LED lights installed by the city and developers since then. Those lights use about 25% of the power the old ones did. And so there are several factors that go into brightness. There's brightness, and then there's intensity. So you must have brightness without intensity up there, I guess, Shane.
There you go.
Yeah. So he described the new LED lights as a softer light, but its perceived brightness depends on the person viewing it. Yeah. Can you look at your lights without sunglasses, Shane?
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah, you can.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
It's
all right.
Very modern, very first worldish.
Well, city's looking to replace old lights in the historic district with a newer, more energy efficient LED lights. So I guess we'll see how that works for us.
You're sure they're not LED lights?
I don't know, man. Is your check engine light on, Shane?
Yeah, my meds, baby, they haven't kicked in yet.
I was going to say, our meds haven't kicked in yet, have they? Well, at any rate, they plan on doing this study in August and probably end it in September. So I don't know if that's going to work or not. So,
it makes sense because that's the time where the clock falls forward, right?
Yeah. So we'll have to see. All right, we got to take a quick break here, Babble's waiting in the wings. Of course, if you're snoring, you need some help there. So, we're here to help you, folks. We really are. We realize you're language deficient. We realize you snore. We're here to help our listeners really, work these things out. So, by all means, please pay attention because, that's how we get paid. Come on. We'll be right back. 15 minutes for the top of the hour. It is Monday, July 8th, 2019, 53 degrees outside. Monday, definitely not a way to spend 1/7 of your life. But what can I tell you? It's error. Yeah.
Great poll question, by the way, Righteous Eagle Man.
Poll question of the day. Our poll question of the day. How long would you like to live?
That's a good call.
Assuming you're in good health, how long would you like to live if you're, in good health and feeling okay and can get around and whatever,
and in good financial, status.
Well, you can be poor and healthy,
Yeah, right. At
Well,
90 years
financial
old,
would be helpful, but well, it's your quality of life. So anyway, you know, looking at your family tree, maybe your history, how long people live in each side of your family, whatever. Check it out and answer our poll question. How long do you want to live? We got several choices there. You put in your own choice. So let's see what exactly folks are saying right now. We've got let me refresh that, and we've got 50%, 100 plus as long as I'm healthy, and then 16% each for 60 to 70, 71 to 90, or 91 to 100. Again, as long as I'm healthy. So most people like to live 100 or more years as long as they're healthy. So
there you go.
I don't know. Are you and I going to be here when I'm 100? That'll be 24 years from now, or 25 years from now. So
I don't know. That's a tough choice for me.
Yeah. Well, you're younger than I am. You should be able to. Well, you've only had 3 heart attacks. Come on.
Yeah, 35 more years. I don't know. The thought of great grandchildren.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Enough with the diapers.
Well, yeah. Well, speaking of health, Bozeman Clinic would like some input from folks as to what do we need at the Bozeman or the new Billings Clinic. That's going to be it's going to be a 54-acre deal out on 19th along I-90 in the West Bozeman, and it's over past the hotels and out back over that area if you aren't familiar with where it's going to go in. And they're going to have an ambulatory center there, but they also want to know what else people might need in there. And, you know, Jeff Krause was talking about if when you open these things, you want to have profitable stuff there. You know,
well, yeah, exactly.
Whatever makes you the most money, because you gotta recoup an investment there. So I guess they want to find out what does Bozeman need over there. They don't really give anywhere to send your stuff, so I guess you'd send it to the Billings Clinic in Billings, and let them know what you think. And let's see, I got a couple things from our text line, 478-8298. I used to think I would live to be 100. That was until the LGBTQ crap got started. Now I'm okay with any day. Okay. The street lights are intrusive, signed text from one of our listeners. Yeah, if you want to put your money where your mouth is, sign your text. So. And we got one about Governor Bullock, but I'm going to hold off on that one because we got a Bullock news item we want to talk about in the next segment. So I'm going to hold off on that text about Governor Bullock till we get to that.
Aren't street lights supposed to be invasive for security reasons?
Well, they're supposed to be invasive to bad guys. You know, they're supposed they're supposed to eliminate the bad guys. You know, and,
deter theft and crime.
Yeah. Well, you know, street lights are like. They're like, you know.
Go ahead, Tom. Put your foot in it. Go ahead.
No, I didn't. I was going to say statistics are like street lights to a drunk. They're used more for support than illumination. So.
That's right. And the fascinating thing is that when you see these pictures from space,
yes,
what you actually see are the street lights because of, you know, their marginal distance.
Right.
And, you know, they make the cities appear to be more lit than they really are. You know?
Right, yeah. Well, Drinking Horse Trail is going to be closed for construction between July 8th. That would be, that's today. To the 23rd.
How do you come up with the name Drinking Horse Trail?
I guess because maybe years ago somebody took their horses up there to drink. I don't know.
I guess.
But anyway, so construction continues on the path that will connect people on foot or bike from town to the mountains. And the city of Bozeman announced this week it will close Drinking Horse Trail and the trail's parking lot July 8th through the July 23rd, as I said. And crews will install a box culvert below Highway 86 while Drinking Horse is closed and allow people a car-free path between the two trailheads. And so you need a car-free path, don't you?
It's great. I love it.
I know it. Yeah.
I can't believe it. It's just great.
And the parking lot also serves as overflow space for the M Trail, one of the area's most popular trails. And the M will remain open, but it's going to be very crowded. So we're encouraging people to explore lots of other trails in Bozeman. So, if you might want to put off going to the M until Drinking Horse opens again on July 23rd. So,
a crowded wilderness park in the first world nation of the United States. Wow, that's great. Not a street park or street lane, not a street park.
Yep. We'll have trouble parking, and people will be fighting over. They're not moving fast enough. Yeah, they'll have to have. They'll have to have passing lanes in there and everything. So, all right, we got to take another quick break. We'll be right back after this. 4 minutes for the top of the hour. It is Monday, July 8th, 2019, and 54 degrees outside. And Shane Matavin on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia, and Tommy Goff, your morning mayor, in the house. And from our text line, 478-8298, I think Drinking Horse is the name because the shape of the mountain looks like a horse drinking water from a distance. So there you are.
Well, there you go.
It's
like laying down and looking at clouds, right?
Our listeners are in the know. Absolutely. So why not? All right. Let's see. In other news, landowners want the landowners to the judge reverse subdivision rejection. The Gallatin County Commission rejected plans for a 10-lot subdivision 6 miles north of Bozeman, and they rejected it because the plans showed there were they have to have 2 public access points for fire and things like that. If one access is blocked, then you got to be able to get in from another way. So they had to have 2 access points, and even though the plan showed there were, the commission denied their application based on faulty conclusions about the subdivision design. So the access in question would have been a new road, ATJ Way, off of Marks Way, which is a small road that was built as part of a 6-lot subdivision they developed several years ago, same company. And they argued that Marks Way is a public road, while the commission said it is unclear whether the easements for Marks Way provide for public access or provide access only for the specific homes in the 6-lot subdivision. So they've gone to court and asked a judge to say, hey, not a chance. So
sounds to me like the county was making more demands for infrastructure. Right. And the guys building it said, hey, we've done enough here. Just give us we want to go start building. No, we want you to do this and this. Yeah, it sounds like a greedy county council to me. But I could. Jeff Krause, we'll put it on the list.
Yeah, we'll put it on the list for that. Even though it's in the county, he might have an opinion on it. Kudos to Park County Sheriff Reserve Deputy Brian Elliott Pearson. He was awarded the Purple Heart to a standing ovation after a traffic accident in March left him hospital bound and unable to walk. So our kudos over to him and the Sheriff's Department over there in Park County. All our best goes out to Sheriff Elliott Pearson, and we hope that he has a speedy recovery, and we'll see. We'll try to keep you apprised of how he's doing.
Good.
In other news, of course, we want to talk about Bullock. Montana's Governor Steve Bullock is reporting more than $2 million in contributions during the second quarter of the year in his presidential campaign. He entered the race, of course, in mid-May, about halfway through the quarter. But Bullock's fundraising places him far behind the field leader, leading $24 million from South Bend, Indiana, Mayor Pete Buttigieg. And campaign manager says Bullock's appeal will resonate in early states like Iowa and New Hampshire. And we've got a text question about that. We'll do that text question about Bullock when we come back. So stay tuned for that. So we'll be back with more interesting and stimulating conversation right after the news at the top of the hour. Brooke Foster's back with the weather. We got Montana State News. Man, this shows everything. Everything you'd ever want in a radio show.
You got it all, Eagle Man.
Is right here. So we'll be back with more right after the news. So stay tuned. 6 minutes after the hour of 7 a.m., it's Monday, July 8th, 2019, 54 degrees outside. Jamin Dobbin, my co-host in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, half man, half amazing. Tom Eaglehoff, your morning mayor in the house. And this is the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane, and we are happy, so happy. I'm amazingly happy to welcome to our microphones John Russell, who used to be on with George Carter and bantered back and forth between the production room and here.
Oh, that seems so long ago.
Used to read the news for us.
Yes, and some of it was true.
Yeah,
when I did the news.
You did not do fake news.
I didn't. I tried to make sure it was accurate and true.
That's right.
That's correct.
And Crystal Alegria joins us from the Extreme History Project. Well, welcome back to the microphones here.
All right. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
Good to be back.
Glad to see you again. So, well, you got a new book, John.
Yeah.
Tell us all about it.
Treasure State Tycoon, Nelson's Story and the Making of Montana is about Nelson's story, who was a very instrumental capitalist in early Montana and quite responsible for a lot of the growth and development in early Bozeman. He was kind of to Montana what you would say Leland Stanford was to California. Not quite to the same degree, but he was a very important person, cattle rancher, gold miner, ran the flour mill, real estate, not only in Bozeman, but later on in Los Angeles. So a very successful businessman, employed a lot of people, gave money to a lot of local charities, took really good advantage of some of the government contracts that came his way from the Crow Reservation, and which was headquartered over by Livingston in the early days. Crystal can address that better than I. Very important person, but at times a real jerk.
I was going to say, how big a jerk was he?
That's what we all want to know, right?
I know.
He had a short temper,
yeah,
and could be verbally abusive, and unfortunately, at times, he could be physically abusive. He had a disagreement, for example, with a physician, attacked the physician with his cane. The physician threatened a lawsuit. Story gave him $20,000 to forget the whole thing. And the physician took that money and made Bozeman's first hospital. So that's how we got our first hospital.
Really?
Was indirectly because Nelson's Story beat the bejeebers out of our local physician. Yes. So that's just one example.
I was going to say 20 grand in those days was pretty big dough.
Yeah, it was a really, really big piece of change. That's right. But he was one of those, whereas many people came west, hit the gold fields, had some success, and then would go back home to buy that piece of bottom land, maybe in Missouri or Tennessee, and marry the girl they left behind them. Yeah. Story was one of those who stayed out west and really built a name for himself. We don't hear more about him. We don't hear a great deal about him because of some aspects of his personality.
Do you think he regrets Bozeman not being Story, Montana?
I've had a historian tell me years ago, this really ought to be Storyville or Storytown because of Nelson's story. And
because we hear an awful lot about him, a lot more, I think, historically within our community than we do about John Bozeman.
Right. Yeah, you have Story Street, you have the Story Hills, you have you have Story Mill.
Yeah, he lived in the SAE house for a number of years.
No, that's not the real.
That's at Nelson.
That's one of the things I
Malcolm.
No, well, actually, Malcolm, when he was growing up, lived there. But that, and I shouldn't belabor that. It's really not the Story Mansion.
Oh, okay. Well,
the Story Mansion was built on.
You heard it here first, folks.
The Story Mansion was built on Main Street and torn down in 1937. It stood there about 50 years. The one on South Wilson belonged to his son, Thomas Byron.
Oh, okay.
But
And there was one at the bottom of the hill, too, isn't there? That was also a story house, the one on the west side at the bottom of the hill, the one that's kind of purple and
that was
whatever. Wasn't that a story house,
that was where
Crystal?
He's talking about the Mendenhall house, which is where.
Yeah, that
Didn't
was.
a story occupy that for a time?
Yes, that was built in the 1860s. And was most likely the first house in Bozeman to have a brick chimney and a doorbell.
Ooh.
See, that shows how rich he was. Not everybody could afford a doorbell.
I was going to say, I thought they built the one at the bottom of the hill when he was poor, and then they moved up on top of the hill.
He
when the cattle and the flour mill came along and all that stuff. You know?
Yeah, he did have some different iterations of houses there. Log cabin, frame house.
Right.
Yeah, his was the first frame house in this community back in the 1860s. There's a picture of it in the book, Treasure State Tycoon.
Hold it up so we can all see it.
I was going to hold it up. I'm like, well, that won't help anybody.
Nelson,
we'll have to take a picture of it.
Yeah, right.
Coming to a bookstore near you, already in some bookstores, but more importantly, I'm gonna do a book signing tomorrow at 5:30, Museum of the Rockies. And Crystal here with the Extreme History Project. I'll do the toss-off.
Go for it.
Yeah, we're so excited. We're so excited for this book.
Yeah.
We've been waiting for it for a while, because Nelson's story is a real important figure in the town of Bozeman, but also in Montana. And so he figures into a lot of history around here, and a lot of history with the Crow Agency, as John mentioned, Fort Ellis, Fort C.F. Smith, all these places he was kind of at. And so, and he was part of a lot of the main events that were happening in Montana history in the early days. He was part of the gold rush. He was part of John Bozeman's death in some ways. He's actually the one who went and had a group of gentlemen go and bury John Bozeman where he died, and then he was instrumental in getting him back to Bozeman. And so it's fun to have this book because it's not just about Nelson's story. It's actually about the history of Montana and the history of Bozeman. And so because he played such an important role and kind of wound his way through all this history, it's just a really good history of Bozeman. That's what I really like about it. So we're doing a book signing with John tomorrow at the Museum of the Rockies at 5:30. And so John has generously is giving us part of the proceeds of this book signing. So we're excited to do this, and we'll be at the Museum of the Rockies 5:30. John, you're going to say a few words too, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'll kind of give a quick overview and maybe do a reading or two from the book, at least until Crystal nudges me in the ribs. To say that's enough. That's enough. Yeah. Hopefully
14 chapters.
Right. That's it. That's all we got time for.
Yeah, John, if you read the whole book, nobody's going to buy it. I'll do that for about 15 or 20 minutes.
Okay.
And then, so for those, as Crystal alluded to, those who are interested in the early history of Montana, in particular, this region and this community, I'd like to think it's going to give you a whole new perspective and show you and educate you about things you had no idea of. And just hope it does really, really well, not only for the edification of folks out there, but tomorrow night, also for the support of the Extreme History Project.
Yeah. Crystal, we've got a couple minutes here before we have to take a break. Why don't you brief people who aren't familiar with the Extreme History Project? I ask you, why is it extreme?
Why is it extreme?
It must be really, I would guess the attack on Pearl Harbor might be extreme. 9/11 might be extreme. But
they get people like me to help with my that's what makes it worrisome.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Yeah, we're a nonprofit. We are located here in Bozeman. We bring history to the public in a lot of different ways. We do walking tours, we do lecture series, we do book readings and signings like this one tomorrow night. And the reason that we call it the Extreme History Project is because we like to talk about history that has been pushed under the rug, that has been not talked about, that needs to be talked about, so it can inform our present, so it can inform what we're doing today. So that's why we're extreme, and or why we like to say we're extreme. And our tagline, as John said earlier, is history isn't pretty. So, that kind of sums us up, I guess, a little bit.
I think John alluded to that earlier.
Yeah.
And people are rewriting history books, or trying to, at least, from certain aspects that, there are parts of history that we don't want to talk about in glowing terms, slavery, some of the things that happened to us over the years. But I've always felt America is a self-correcting nation, that we did give women the vote, we did overcome slavery, we do have gay marriage or whatever. And you could talk about any of those things, whether you agree with them or not, are with us.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Or not with us, I guess, in some cases. So
yeah, and it's good to know our history and know our full history, so that even if it isn't good, it's important that we know it. So, like you said, we can correct ourselves, and we can, we always say we need to learn from our history to do better, and so that's what we are hoping to facilitate that.
Yeah, what do they say? Those who ignore the past are condemned to repeat it, or something like that.
Yeah,
something along that line.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So we got to have another Nelson story come riding into town and make us New York City, or what?
Right.
Well, another aspect too is you have the growth in population of this area. A lot of folks moving in from other parts of Montana, other parts of the country, other parts of the planet, and they may not know much about the history of Montana, much less this area. Hopefully a book like this kind of gives them some perspective, and won't make them scratch their head and ask themselves, what the heck did I move here for? Nothing like that, but because, as Crystal said, history is not pretty. There's a lot of, I'd like to think, good things, interesting things about the community and Nelson's story in the book, but the things that are not too pretty as well. So, like I say, hopefully it'll help people have a better understanding of the early growth of this community.
Yeah. Well, there's only a couple of places in the world. I know when I told people I was moving to Montana, they go, "Oh, Montana," not the same reaction for Iowa or Nebraska.
Right.
Moving to Arkansas. California, Hawaii, Alaska, and Montana are about the people say, "Ooh, okay, good for you."
Is that a province in Canada?
All right, we got to take a quick break. We're talking with Crystal Alegria. I'm going to get it in a minute.
Alegria.
You
had it.
I had it earlier. Alegria. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Of the Extreme History Project, and of course John Russell, who's the author of the book, and give us the title real quick there.
Treasure, State Tycoon, Nelson's Story, and the Making of Montana.
All right. We'll continue the conversation right after this, so stay tuned. 21 minutes after the hour of 7 a.m. It's Monday, July 8, 2019, 54 degrees outside. Shaman Taubman on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia, half man, half amazing. The man who went to high school in Billings, went to MSU here, ran the Bacchus Pub Kitchen for a time. So just a Bozeman connection, but I don't know if he, did you learn any history in the kitchen?
Yeah, you learn a lot of history about baking and cooking. You do. It's pretty fascinating.
So did you have the Nelson Story soup, or?
Yeah, exactly. That's Nelson's Story.
Well, it would have been real hot and peppery chili, I think, if anything.
Yeah, that was Thursday.
Clam chowder on Friday. No waiting.
That's right. See, you've been listening.
Well, if you're just joining us, we're talking with John Russell and Crystal Alegria, who is, and we're talking about John Russell's new book, which is the, I should have brought mine with me so I'd have it in front of me.
Treasure State Tycoon.
Treasure State Tycoon, the Nelson story, I guess, or a story of Nelson's story.
Right.
And I guess some of the other things we think about, there was several stories of the family that were here, Nelson's story and Malcolm and some other ones, I think, that were they all friendly? Were they a friendly family? Were they a dysfunctional group, or what?
Well, for the most part, they were friendlier than the old man.
Okay.
For the most part.
Were they
stories.
competitive with each other as far as?
Not really.
Yeah.
Not really. No, the oldest was Nelson Jr., and then the second oldest was Thomas Byron, and another son, Walter, who became quite significant in the California National Guard. Their research library in California for their military history there is the Walter P. Story Library. He was a general when he retired. TB Story, the second oldest, again, he's the one who built the house on South Wilson. He was more involved with the mill, the flour operation north of town. Nelson Story Jr. kind of dabbled in politics. As a matter of fact, he did go on to become a lieutenant governor of the state of Montana. And then they had one girl in the family, Rose. She was a challenge. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, yeah?
Nelson and Ellen lost 3 daughters.
Ooh.
In their childhood. And so for that reason, Rose comes along, she survives. And I think, as a result, they kind of doted on her a little bit more. But she married a doctor from New York whose story, gee, what a surprise, didn't get along with too well. But in answer to your question, they've had quite the influence in the area. And Malcolm would have been one of TB's sons.
Yeah.
So he was... Nelson, that is the statue over in Lindley Park. It's ironic that it's in Lindley Park, considering some of the knockdown, drag-out fights he and Joe Lindley had. Malcolm's statue is out there on Main Street, just across from the Catholic Church. So, the Story family, they're still descendants here and over in Emigrant. That's where his summer cattle camp was. And so there are still stories over in Park County. There's stories here and some down in Southern California as well.
Yeah. I was wondering if they, like a lot of families, they, in some cases, the head guy, Nelson, would say, okay, well, you're not good enough to do this, so I'm going to put you over here, or you're not good enough to do that, I'm going to put you over here. Or did he say, let's make this a family operation. Let's all benefit. And you take the flour mill, and you take the cattle, and you take the trade with the Crow Reservation. And is that kind of how it worked?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Quite close to that. TB Story and Nelson Jr. Nelson Jr. was known as Bud, and Thomas Byron was known as Bine. Bine was kind of in charge of the mill, but Nelson Jr. helped there as well. Walter was the big shot behind the Southern California real estate. His dad gave him a lot of that. The Walter P. Story building is still a skyscraper in downtown Los Angeles.
Wow.
It's at 5th and Broadway. So he kind of divvied some things up, but he was always one of those, it's my way or the highway guys.
I was going to say, he would, from the book, it would seem like he was someone who would put a leash on, but not a tight leash, in other words, but there was definitely a leash there.
In the early 1900s, he says, okay, I'm going to retire. You guys can, he was out of the cattle business by then. He says, all right, I'm going to retire. You guys run the mill, yada, yada. Fred Wilson, a well-known architect from here, designed a new shed, a new outbuilding for the mill. And Fred Wilson, like I say, excellent architect. He designed it for TB and Nelson Jr. And Nelson Sr. looked at it and says, that floor is not going to be heavy enough to store grain. This is, and his sons would say, wait a minute, this guy's an architect. He knows what he's doing. And Nelson, in effect, says, I don't care. So Fred Wilson sat down and redesigned
Made it stronger, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, well, good. All right. Let's take a quick phone call here. You need your headphones on to do that. So, caller, you're on the air with John and Crystal. What's up?
Just a quick couple of questions. I've heard some stories over the year, no pun intended, that the stories when they settled on that piece of property out there on Story Hill, that there were some land disputes and that some of the people, not the stories, ended up with their homes burned to the ground. Now, I'm not sure if that's true or not. Another story I'd heard about them was the Crow reservation deal, that they pretty much undermined that deal by providing the Crow with, substandard blankets, substandard grain compared to what they were being paid to provide. And they pocketed the rest of that money and, became the wealthy family that they are off of that, as well as, a few other things. So maybe you guys could confirm whether they stole from the Crows and whether they burned people out of their homes.
Got to be real quick because we're at the bottom of the hour. So thanks for the call.
In regards to the first question, I'm unaware of burning people out of their homes. As to the second one, yes, he did illegally profit off the Crow reservation, more so by sometimes selling the same goods twice. He had some complicity from the Indian agent there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And sometimes also after selling goods to the reservation, getting them back and then selling them here in town or elsewhere. That was one of the main ways that he was able to.
Okay. We've got to go one more time about the book signing.
Tomorrow, July 9th, 5:30, Museum of the Rockies. John's going to say a few words, and then we'll sell some books, and he can sign them for us.
Okay.
So
we hope everybody will show up there. Thanks, guys, for being here. We appreciate it very much.
Tom.
All right, and we'll be back with 5 things you need to know with Shane right after this. Welcome back, everyone. 36 minutes after the hour, 23 minutes before the hour, if you're on metric time. Monday, July 8, 2019, 55 degrees. Thanks to John Russell and Crystal Alegria from coming in and talking about their book and whatever. And from our text line, 478-8298, it's fun to hear Shane's open mic on the breaks. So maybe we should just do that all the time. We'll just have Shane out there. And Mike is hot. Shane's Mike. We hear Shane during the commercials. All right. Well, thank you very much. Well, he never says anything. He never says the 8 words, so I never have a problem with his mic being open because he's not going to say anything that shouldn't be heard by the masses out there. So yeah. So we were conversing a little bit about the job, but that's okay.
It just goes to show how sincere you and I are, Eagle Man.
That's right. That's right. Well, also from our text line, in another vein, what we need in Bozeman is to quit turning some of the best agricultural land in Montana into hotels, restaurants, and dog parks. So
that's a joke, of course. That's clearly a joke. I mean,
well, yeah.
You're in the middle of the wilderness. If you need more land, clear it. Don't worry about it. We have the same problem here. It's like, yeah.
People don't want you to grow. Don't want expansion of Vancouver. It's big enough, or what?
Well, the big argument here, real quick, is that benefits people get right from the government. Like if you have anything more than 10 acres and you grow blueberries on it, the government pays you huge dollars for growing blueberries, right? I mean, why would you want to give that up? I mean, you're making a fortune off the blueberries, and you get like 50 to 500 grand in the bank every year from the government. Bam, right?
Okay, well, farmers here are scratching their heads, wondering how come Trump doesn't do that.
It's crazy. Like you drive out the flats, because of the delta from the Fraser River, and you pass by the 20, 40, 50 acre blueberry farms, and there's these giant homes. I'm kidding you not. These homes are bigger than McMansions. They're like 20,000 square feet size, 3 stories, 12 garages,
wow.
And they're full of Indian families. There's like 400 people living in it.
Wow. Okay. Well, we talked earlier about Governor Bullock and his picking up $2 million for his campaign, which is chump change. If you're
his retirement fund,
I was gonna say he'll spend that in one day in Iowa.
Yeah.
But anyway, from our text line 478-8298, hey Tom and Shane, I was wondering what the two of you think about Governor Bullock's executive order establishing the Montana Climate Solutions Council. Also, his joining Montana with the U.S. Climate Alliance. I know what I think, but I'm curious how the rest of the folks feel about this. Well, I think we've made our climate change positions pretty clear that theory is not science.
That's right, and it's a theory.
It's
That's
pretty.
right.
It's pretty simple. Yeah, that it's a guess at what might happen, and we
and we've talked about the modern minimum, been around for 400 years, and true science, and no one wants to talk about it. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, it's we our climate is controlled by the sun, and what happens on the sun happens here. So. When the sun's not popping, we're cold, and when it is, we're warm. So there you are. So that's pretty much science.
That's right. And the fascinating thing is the light that we see is great for the hard part of the planet in heating it and having things grow. But the atmosphere is determined by the upper layers, particularly the ionosphere, and that's what really determines the climate. Well, from the top down, as they say in economics.
Yeah.
Weather's the same way, from the top down.
That's it. I've got to remind everybody about our app, our phone app. If you have a smartphone and you don't have the AM 1450 KMMS app, you are missing out. You are missing out big time. So you need to get over and get that app at either the Apple Store or Google Play, whichever phone you have. They're both compatible, obviously. And, you get to hear us. There's a listen button there. There's an app chat. You can chat directly with us without missing a beat of the show. And you don't have to worry about putting in a phone number or speed dial the text line. It's right next to the listen button, app chat, hit it, and boom, we get the message. And it's a great way to communicate with us. If you don't want to be on the air or you want to voice your opinion, then the app chat is the quickest, easiest, fastest way to do it. And also, there's also news, weather, all of our stories there. Our repeat broadcasts are there. So we did a poll the other day. Most people hear us on their smartphone. They hear us on the smartphone. So get over there and get that app. Just do a search for AM 1450 KMMS. And you'll see the app in there, or go to our website at kmmsam.com and just click on how to get the app. And there you go. I mean, it's that easy. I mean, come on. You don't want to miss out on KMMS, do you? I mean, geez. I mean, what are you, brain dead?
All right, well, it's time for you know what.
It is. It's time to cut our throats. We'll be right back right after this. I had to think for a minute if it was Monday. Oh no,
love
Shane.
the moments and the papas.
You're in trouble when you can't remember what day of the week it is. So anyway,
do we have a caller?
We do. Yeah, we got a caller patiently waiting on the line who wants to impart valuable information to us. So let's go there right now. Caller, you are on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
It's a zinger of a question.
All right, go for it.
Did you find a place to have your party? Is it July 26th?
No.
Yeah, we are going to be at the Grand Tree Convention Center in the Highlight Room at 6 p.m. on the 26th of July.
Really? You had to tell everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We do.
Yeah.
We want everybody there.
Everybody there. Okay.
All listeners have to attend. It's mandatory.
That's right. Tom figures 50. I'm saying 200.
Well, let's hope it's not 200 because we can't afford that much food.
Well, we can if they just make popcorn.
Well, yeah, that's all we'll have is popcorn for you.
There's still going to be room enough for men walking around waving guns. And,
that's right. Yeah.
Maybe drones dipping in and out.
Yep.
Was because they said the Washington, D.C. event was supposed to be the most impressive of the century.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you guys probably watched it. Was it worth all this?
Absolutely. Over the top, incredible. You should be proud to be an American.
Yeah, it won't be as good as our thing on the 26th, but...
No. Ours is much better, yeah.
It was pretty good, I think, all things considered, yeah.
Well, there's some warts in the American way. I don't know if people should ignore some of the things that are happening and have happened in America by guns waving in their face. I think a country is braver if it doesn't have a gun waving at you. How brave do you think in a bar if a man is coming in waving a gun? Do you think he's the most brave man in the bar?
No, because everybody else in the bar is probably armed too, and the guy waving the gun probably knows that. So I don't think
exactly.
I don't think we have much shootings in our bars in Montana for that very reason. That even
in fact, they're safer and richer because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were there? Because I didn't watch it. Were there marching soldiers with guns in the Washington, D.C. 4th of July event?
Yes, there were.
Yeah, there were bands. There were high school bands, college bands, flags, flag troops, people representing all kinds of people from across your country as well, too.
And the various military groups marched with guns. Yeah, they did. They had their rifles on.
Brigades from each of your 5 military groups.
Yeah, the world must think we're trying to catch up with North Korea, that we've fallen behind. Now we want to have our military events like China.
I'm glad you watch the social media so well, so you can use their talking points. That was a good comment.
Yeah.
Well,
comparing your country to North Korea, you must be really proud to compare your country to North Korea. Oh, it's a socialist country. That's why you want to compare it to a socialist country, because that's what you want. I got it. I figured it out, Tom.
Okay.
Yeah, that reminds me. Venezuela also had a big military march. So there's another indication that the United States is slipping toward, pardon the expression, socialism.
I don't think so. In that case, drone went off in front of the grandstand, right? Wasn't it in Venezuela, Tom?
Yeah.
When
they had to wrap what's his name up in a blanket.
In a blanket.
So,
well, all right.
I think in contrast, there weren't a whole lot of starving people watching this parade. A lot of them were waving flags, and they were happy to be there. And they went there voluntarily. I don't think North Korea, the crowds are voluntary there. I think it's mandatory you show up.
Yeah, a lot of drenched people. Mother Nature was crying over the event.
Well, Mother Nature may have been crying, but people went out there in spite of that, and it was a huge turnout of people who take pride in the country we live in, and even though it has its faults, we are self-correcting. So.
And just crying with joy.
Well, how about this self-correcting? This is, fortunately, this country used to be the number one obese country in the world, but fortunately...
Well, you can't just help yourself, can you? Your country has done more to reduce pollution and enhance the planet than anyone else, feed more people, free more people, and provide the greatest benefits for mankind in 2,000 years. And you can't say anything nice. Is there nothing nice that you're proud about America? You proud about the moon landing? Are you proud about the moon landing? 50 years anniversary.
I didn't watch it then. I don't watch it.
Why am I not surprised? Did you even have a television then?
No, I've never owned a television.
Now I know why.
There we go.
All right, let me finish this.
Go for it.
The United States is used to be the leading obese country in the world. At least we've let another country per capita get ahead of us. You know what country that is?
Russia.
Mexico.
Well, good for them.
Well,
that's tacos, I mean,
yeah, we put obesity on the world, and you're say that America is giving the world something. Is giving the world fatty arteries.
That's by choice. You eat by choice.
It's giving the world people like you to freely speak what they think on a global show like we are, Tom.
And I've got to go because I've got to do one more break before the top of the hour. So, hey, thanks for All right. Hey, thanks for the call. All right. We'll be right back. 4 minutes for the top of the hour. We got a couple callers on the line. So let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number. 522-8255. Caller, you're on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Good morning. This is Charity.
Hi, Charity.
So I just wanted to tell you what a great Independence Day I had.
Good.
And I think it's really important that people remember that it's Independence Day, not just the 4th of July.
I agree.
Because it's the event that matters, not the date. And anyway, I was camping over the last portion of the week, but prior to that, I was in Costco, and I was getting my groceries to go, and I had a conversation with someone in line behind me and also the cashier, and we were discussing about our grown-up daughters taking self-defense courses or having concealed carry license. And anyway, I just thought it was so much fun to have that conversation with three people in Costco. And I had said, as I exited the line, isn't Montana wonderful? Let's keep it this way. And they all said, yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But that you could have that conversation.
That's why I'm here.
You know that there are people here that are patriots, are lovers of the Second Amendment, are hoping to keep our country the way that it is, but it's hard to even keep Montana the way that it is with certain things like what Bullock just signed.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, when I came back from camping, my dad told me that since Bozeman didn't have a parade, that a whole bunch of people put very large flags on their vehicles and drove up and down Main Street
good.
for a couple hours,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, we had our parade on July 4th. You know, if you missed it, go over to our rebroadcast and you can check that out.
I miss hearing your parade. I remember that from days
Well,
gone by.
we've got one up on our website, so just go over to KMMSAM.com, click on the Tom and Shane podcast, go to July 4th, and you'll be able to hear it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then also, I just want to comment. When I came home, I went ahead and watched the Trump's Independence Day celebration, and I just want to say how happy I was that I had the opportunity to watch it.
Yeah.
Because it brought me back to my younger years, having lived in Oregon, when we had pretty giant celebrations.
Right. Yeah.
When I was young, and the Blue Angels were always a part of it. They used to practice near my home.
Yep.
So I got to see them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel at all as though there's a dictatorship aspect to, you know, during a day like this, displaying the might of the United States. I mean, it is the might of the United States that has kept other countries in check for a long time.
That's for sure. Yep.
And even though I'm not always on par with certain foreign policy, that doesn't mean I'm not thankful that all these things protect me.
Yep.
So I know you have another caller. So I'll go.
Well, I'm running out of time.
Thank you.
All right. Hey,
Bye.
thanks for the call. All right. One thing missing from the Trump speech that was glaringly evident: the word "I" was not in his speech. So
that's very typical him.
There
he
you
doesn't
go.
Say it.
All right. We'll be right back with more right after the news. Thank you, Dan. Welcome back, everyone. 6 minutes after the hour of 8 a.m. It's Monday, July 8th, 2019, 57 degrees outside. Shane Matobin on the line with me, Tom Eaglehoff, your morning mayor, and it's a beautiful day outside. It's just raining and pouring, and it's really nice. So we're excited to be in Montana. No wasps, Shane. I haven't seen a single wasp yet this year, and I don't know.
Well, there you go.
Usually they cover the entire outside of the home during the summer.
It's probably due to the cool weather.
Cool weather and the rain. Yeah, cool weather and the rain probably stopped them. So I wanted to go back to the text we had earlier. If you're just joining us, we got a text. Hey, Tom and Shane, I was wondering what you think about the Governor Bullock's executive order establishing the Montana Climate Solutions Council, also his joining of the U.S. with the Climate Alliance, I know what I think, but I'm curious how the rest of the folks feel about this. And I didn't give you much of a chance to respond to that, Shane. So why don't you take off on it?
Well, as I believe, and I've said before, this whole thing about climate theory is the predicate is to make the millennium generation guilty of the life they live and what they're having. Foreign aid is not acceptable. People just see it as a waste of money. So let's create some guilt from climate change and redistribute wealth and get the millennials behind it. So this is another exercise by a state governor that's a Democrat of wasting money, just a total waste of money, of putting a commission together who's looking at a theory that everybody in the world's looking at. I mean, what a waste of time and money when there's so many people already reviewing this information. Another commission is not going to accomplish anything except pay people to sit at the, sit below the governor and, talk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And pop their theories.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, we've when you live a long time, as I have, you have seen a lot of weather and you've seen a lot of climate, and I've lived in various climates,
oh my gosh, from the tropic to the savanna to the desert, high desert. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. But, one of the things that I've noticed is that climate does change. It was cold when I was a kid. It was warm when I was a kid. We had warm winters, we had cold winters, and that's just the way the planet functions.
And I don't think anyone on this planet now in the 21st century can talk about climate change or whatever you want to call it, unless you've been to the tropics during monsoon season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, it rains 24/7.
Yeah, in many cases, many places it does. In Vietnam, it rained every day at 2:00. Period. Yeah. I mean, that's what it is. We just took our break and it rained.
or as have been to a desert. Dry desert. If you haven't traveled around the planet, it's like we've had the conversation about guns, right?
Yeah.
And if you haven't fired a gun, you can't express an opinion about it. Yeah. I'm sorry, I just don't think you can.
Well, that experience helps your opinion certainly be more valid, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
More personal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think that's true. That you have a different feeling after you fired a weapon, particularly if you fired it at someone.
Well, yeah, that's the first time.
That's a whole different story, but
wow,
not going there. But let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number, 522-8255. Caller, you are on the air. What's your name? What's going on?
Hey, guys. This is Mike in Manhattan.
Hi, Mike. How you doing?
Not too bad. So since you bring up climate change...
I'll say hi, Double M.
What?
Double M for Mike in Montana.
So do you guys think that human-caused global warming is just not even true?
Yes.
So what don't you think we know how to do? You don't think we know how to measure CO2, or you don't think we know how to do a test that would show what more CO2 in the atmosphere would do?
I don't think we have anywhere near the gravitas that the planet does on its own.
Seriously, you think that we can't change the climate with our activity? You think that's not possible?
Well, there's all kinds of reports. The UN last October did a report about the tropical cutting that they've done. And how grasses have taken over, and there's now more oxygen being produced on the planet than ever before.
Well, but still, you can measure the CO2 in the air. I mean, you have an oxygen sensor in your car, and it seems to work good. I would think we could measure how much.
The last two volcanoes that went off, the one in Hawaii and the one in Indonesia, deposited more CO2 and dust in the air than we've created in 20.
But still, the CO2 levels are way higher now than they were. I mean, there's 6% more moisture in the air than in 1980.
But as much of natural causes as it is man, and it's more. There's more. It's like flagellation. What does flagellating cows produce?
Methane.
Let's look at back at the 18.
Termites
Let's go back. Let's go back to the 1700s when there was nobody here, and buffalo were as far as you could see. Animals were everywhere, and we didn't seem to have a problem back then. I don't know. But again, that's theory.
But I mean, look at how many cars there are, and it's just and they're constantly on. I mean, they're always on. There's always cars turned on, just pumping this stuff in the air, and you think that won't affect anything?
Well, first of all, they're not pumping this stuff in the air. They've been filtered, and the American technology
but the CO2
and the ability
is still coming out of the exhaust.
No, it does.
I mean,
mostly what's coming out of cars in North America today is water.
But I mean, there's just two simple facts. You have this much CO2, and you can do an experiment and you could make a device to do an experiment, add CO2 to it, see if it traps in more heat, and it does. We've done that.
But I'm telling you, there's more naturally produced CO2 than man is.
But then why did the CO2 levels not go up before us? I mean, they've fluctuated, but it takes millions. But it takes millions of years for it to happen. We've done it in 100 years.
No, that's not true. No.
Yeah, it is true. It's so true.
Go look at geological science. They can measure it. They can measure it in the drilling they've done, and you'll.
There's 40 million people on the planet that don't believe you, and they're Republicans in America.
Well,
that's the only people in the whole world that don't believe in it.
What did you just say? 7.5 billion people believe in climate change?
No.
I would guess to say it's probably around 5 billion.
I would say it might be 100 million because the rest of the people haven't even heard the theory.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not true. That's not true.
Okay. Yeah, of course it is.
Well, let's put this on another level. Let's take the Paris Accord, the Climate Accord. Okay.
Perfect.
It's got no teeth in it. Nobody has to abide by it. Obama signed a deal with China that they could pollute to their heart's content till 2030, and we're supposed to cut it out. But
what would be wrong with if let's say we're wrong? Okay.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
You can keep up with this.
Go for it.
Last November, the Paris Accord group met in Paris. What country had reduced its CO2 emissions more than anyone else?
I don't know. Probably us.
The United States, 2.4% reduction. Do you know what the increase of CO2 production in India and China were? Over 20%.
A lot.
So please.
A lot.
Okay.
So let's say that we're wrong and there's no climate change and we don't even need to worry about it. But we switched to green energy anyways. What's the downfall?
Nothing.
What is the downfall?
Nothing. We agree with it.
We get cheaper energy.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it at all.
We agree with it.
But if we're wrong the other way, then we have a serious problem.
We're not wrong the other way.
We are, though. I mean, it's so obvious. The Arctic is. I mean, it was 90 degrees and I know you guys, it doesn't.
You better go check.
Matter.
Go
a couple days it was 90 degrees in Anchorage, whatever.
Whoa.
But there's going to be no ice.
Whoa. You better go check the National Geographic and the UN. This last winter, one of the coldest on record, the ice cap on North America froze.
You know what? In North America, it was the coldest, and the rest of the entire planet was above average all winter. America was the only one because the jet stream is breaking down. It barely even works. The jet stream's barely even there anymore. The jet stream breaks down and lets that cold air slide down here from the Arctic. And there's going to be no ice in the Arctic within 10 years probably. So
yeah, that's what they said 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years. Yeah.
And it keeps decreasing every year, man.
No, it just froze this winter. It's frozen right now. It's an ice pack, okay?
Well, we'll have to agree to disagree, man.
There you are. It's that easy. Hey, all views are welcome here, man. They are. All views are welcome here. So we're not gonna call you names or make fun of you or anything like that. So let's take another call. 522 Talk is the number. Caller, you're on the air. What's going on?
Hi guys.
Yeah.
This is Jerry calling. Thank
Jerry,
you.
how you doing?
Fine, sir. If I'm not mistaken, doesn't CO2 help the plants grow?
Yes, it's called photosynthesis.
Yeah, I forgot that. Huh? How about that? I'll be darned.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's also a miracle chemical for the ocean, although it can reduce the temperature of it, but it helps because it floats to the bottom, and it helps to break down everything that's on the bottom from all the stuff that dies in the ocean and floats to the bottom.
You know, in the false narrative that came out for Glacier National Park, remember they put the signs up?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, now they took them down. And every 10, 20 years, we're going to be underwater. Miami's going to be underwater.
Yeah.
Statue of Liberty's going to be underwater. Goodness gracious. They were afraid to call it man-made global warming when that scientist out of East Anglia University put that proposition forward some years back. It was all a hoax, and it is a hoax to get fellas or people like your last caller just to get on the bandwagon and just be scared to death. We have done more to contribute to the lessening of air pollution in this country than anybody in the world. So that's all I have to say.
All right, man. Hey, thanks for the call. All right. We got to take a break. We've got callers calling in, Shane. If you can take care of those, I will be right back with more stuff right after these important words. 21 minutes after the hour of 8 a.m. in the morning, Shane's got a caller that he's been waterboarding online. Let's go to the phones. 522-TALK is the number, 522-8255. Calling you on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Yeah, I just want to make a few comments about a few little things that are not real important, but
okay.
they're not about climate change.
Sounds like it's perfect for this show.
Climate change. If people are causing it, then we just need to cut down the birth rate.
Well, we are doing that.
Yeah,
we're already doing that.
Abortion's legal and happening every day. So
yeah, I was telling Shane that the best vacation I ever had, and I'm 77 and I've been on a lot of them, was to take my kids on the ferry boat to Victoria, across the Straits of Juan de Fuca. I recommend that to anybody who's run out of vacation options. That's a wonderful trip.
Okay.
Oh, the other thing I want to say is compare how our society has changed. My mother was born in 1919, and in 1939, her and her girlfriends, they lived in Jersey City, took the subway over to see the grand opening of Gone with the Wind. Now, this was just 80 years ago, and she said at the end of the movie, when Clark Gable says, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn," everybody in the audience went, "Oh!"
Yeah, I know. A swear word. Oh, my gosh.
Yes, and then we go forward. We have Stormy Daniels.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How our society has changed. But I'll say one more thing about Stormy is that since that's a fictitious name, I think she should change Daniels, drop the D and add SP.
Okay. All right, there you go.
Do you think that would be a little bit more fitting?
That'll work.
All right. You guys have a great day.
All right. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
That was good.
522-TALK. Caller, you are on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Hi, I'm John. I'm from Bozeman, and that first caller that came, I don't think we got an answer from one of those questions. And before we start, I'd like to say I believe that man-made climate change is a thing. However, it is very wildly blown out of proportion by media and what have you. Mm-hmm. But he asked the question: What if I'm wrong? What if we're wrong? What then? What is the harm in switching to a more green energy?
Nothing at all. And as we've said many times, alternative fuels will come in their own good time.
And as a Canadian, I want to say this. It's really important. Acid rain. Mm-hmm. Richard Nixon started the Environmental Protection Agency because Trudeau went to him and said, "Hey, this coal smoke you're sending over to Canada is creating acid rain and killing our forests. You got to do something about it." So he set up the Environmental Protection Agency. They came up with filtration systems to clean up all your smokestacks, and now they're the cleanest in the world. You've got the cleanest technology to burn coal in the world. So man can adapt because he can affect the environment if he wants to.
Yeah, that would be the case. Now, I said many times, alternative fuels will come in their own time. When we have a solar panel that's the size of a dime that produces the same electricity that's the size of a Buick, then we're on the right track. But that's going to evolve. Alexander Graham Bell didn't say, "Hey, Watson, let's work on texting tomorrow. We got the phone working," So. These things all happen, but they're going to happen in their own good time.
All right. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah, thank you. 522-TALK is the number.
Just one real quick before we take the call. Yeah. Just so everybody knows, your entire grid, 110% of your grid, 1.6% is solar energy. That's how much they've spent billions and billions to produce in the last 25 years. 1.6%.
Okay. Boy, I just answered 2 calls at the same time, so this is going to be hard. I just answered 1 call, so if that caller who just got on could wait, and we'll take the other call first. Caller, you're on the air.
Is that me?
That would be you.
Okay, so here's the deal. The caveman didn't look out at the Ice Age and say that they caused that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they didn't quit building fires. As a matter of fact, they built more fires. So when climate change happened to the caveman, how they survived that was they adapted. And so this whole, we have to run around like chickens with their head cut off and freeze to death in the winter and cook to death in the summer, so that you adapt. It's what you do. And here's the cool thing about CO2 in the atmosphere. It weighs more than dry air. And it's twice as heavy as dry air, as a matter of fact, and that's what causes it to sink to the earth. Mm-hmm. And it's plant food. It feeds plants. And the boreal forest is a forest that's in the northern hemisphere, and it wraps around the entire globe. And it's very important to the earth, the ecosystem up there, and down here as well. And this is a very valuable forest to have. And it contracts and shrinks when the CO2 levels get low. And when the CO2 levels are high, it grows and it expands and it gets bigger. And it's been doing this for millennia. It's been doing it since it was created, okay? And I don't see a downside. I want to buy a greenhouse and stick it in my yard. So I don't really see nobody's shown me the downside to global warming. I don't know, man. Everybody seems to go to Hawaii during the wintertime. Why can't we make Montana like Hawaii? It was at one time.
That's true. It was, yeah. Yeah, it was very warm here at one time. Well, the record for Death Valley was set in 1935.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's the downside? We have food fights instead of wars with bullets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the downside.
If you have this growing yeah. So the poor, there's no more. Global warming seems to be the answer to every one of the Democrats' problems. If you have global warming, you have no need to heat in the wintertime. People don't freeze to death. People would never starve to death. You could grow food all year long. We would be, it seems like it would solve all of the Democrats' woes in life.
Well, we've gone to a lot more natural gas use, certainly, and that has.
35%.
We're the largest producer of natural gas now, passing Russia, I believe. And that's a step in the right direction to combating what's going on, because even though natural gas is, of course, a fossil fuel, it's a clean one, or cleaner than coal by a long ways.
Yeah, and it's dropped from 68% to produce electricity on your grid to 63.5%. Mm-hmm. Coal was coal was over 52%, and it's dropped to 27.4% of your, so right there, adaptation, like what callers say.
Yeah. All right. I got to go. Hey, thanks for the call, though. Appreciate it. Thanks for your input. Bye-bye. All right. All right, we got a caller waiting on the phone, Shade. If you could take care of those folks, then I will be back at the bottom of the hour with news and Fox News, Montana State News, and Brooke Foster weather, Credit Karma. We got it all, man. Mark Levin. I mean, jeez, this show is loaded. We got Shane, too. Holy smoke. We'll be back with more right after the news, so stay tuned. 23 minutes before the top of the hour. It is Monday, July 8th, 2019, 62 degrees outside. We've got a caller patiently waiting. So, caller, you are on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
And I wasn't put through the watering board. He was wonderful.
He was wonderful to you? All right. Well, good. I hope so. What's going on? The Polish princess. Are you going to come on the 26th?
And he made me, what do you mean come over? I'll be there with bells on it.
Well, all right. Good deal.
Right. Did you hear that, Tom?
It's her birthday?
Party for me.
It's her birthday.
Yeah.
All right. Wow.
Listen, what is this thing, this global, it's more like global confusion in the world. The thing is also, Al was telling me, and Shane explained, about this Earth axis moving, which has really the effect on global warming, which is never mentioned.
You mean where the Earth turning on its axis, and sometimes it's closer and sometimes it's further away? Because we wobble, as we spin.
The polar axis of the planet, so the magnetic north and south, has shifted. It's shifted 6 times. Geologists
with the global warming.
Well, I don't know, but Shane says so, and it's got to be true.
I'm telling you, they've established that the polar axis, the magnetic north and south of the planet, has shifted at least 6 times in over the million, or over billions of years. But it's shifted, so it can automatically all of a sudden just readjust itself and.
And north can be south, and south can be north. Your compass will be, you'll have
like the global confusion.
Well, yeah, that's true.
And then everybody be upside down.
Yeah, Al used to say that. That's why I mentioned. I know nothing about science. But anyway, all this phony global baloney is about, again, as you said before, guilt. And let us big boys do what we want to do for ourselves. And it's your children's fault. It's your fault what is happening. So listen to us. Again, that's the whole thing. As you said before, it's a guilt. But anyway, looking forward, and I'll be coming with Judy and Clint.
Well, okay.
Okay, the reason she's not phoning.
All right, so we'll have at least 3 people there besides Shane and me.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah, don't forget also his sister, the Kelly.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, then.
We'll have to order more food.
All right, then.
All right, darling. Thanks a lot.
Make sure to pile it up. Okay.
All right. Thanks for the call. Caller, you on the air. What's going on?
Hey, Tom. It's Tony.
Hey, Tony. How are you?
Good. Hey, Tom, I just got a real quick point. I'm just on this global warming issue.
Yeah.
With the other caller's theory of all of our evil internal combustion engines spewing CO2, since the beginning of time with the Model A, I guess not the beginning of time, but since the automobile and burning oxygen with our evil engines and jet propulsion and everything, Tom, wouldn't you think everything that is combusted uses oxygen? Why isn't the oxygen levels dropping? So where we got 21% in our atmosphere of oxygen, you would think they would be screaming that the oxygen is being depleted. But that's not the case.
You're absolutely right. Good point.
Yeah.
For the last 100 years, right?
Certainly something to think about, and that can be measured as well.
Yeah, let's hear what the statistics are on that. I'm still breathing just fine.
Yeah. Well, and we're a mile above sea level, too.
That's exactly. And you know what they forgot to mention, too, Tom, is with the emissions, they forget to mention all these forest fires that go uncontrolled.
Oh, yeah.
Because they won't let us, manage our forests. That's left out conveniently.
Yeah. Well, they have volcanoes. Shane pointed out a couple of volcanoes that went off. This is the natural thing of the planet. Climate changes from time to time. And as I said before, there's nothing wrong with us advancing and getting off fossil fuels, but you're not going to get off of oil because it's in virtually everything we touch. So oil is going to be with us for who knows And
you notice something really amazing when people come to visit Montana, which apparently are 12 million people a year, from lowlands or the ocean coast, and they come to the wilderness with all the trees and all that oxygen. You notice how tired they get?
Yeah. well, they get tired because they're a mile above sea level. That's why they get tired.
No, they get tired because of all the fresh air.
Well, maybe that's it. I don't know. Anyway, hey, thanks for the call. All right.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, appreciate it. Let's take another call. Caller, you on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Is that me, Tom?
That's you, Pete.
My God, I don't know. You know, cars emit monoxide, not dioxide, because it is carbon. But you know, you need four things on this planet, this particular planet, for life. Okay, and they're carbon dioxide, water, sunshine, and oxygen. That equals life.
Yeah, and nitrogen too is helpful.
Yeah. I said oxygen.
Nitrogen is helpful too.
Nitrogen,
yeah, we're about 70% nitrogen, I think. Not, whatever. Anyway.
You know, stop and think about the difference between the Earth's temperature going up 2 degrees Celsius as opposed to going down 2 degrees Celsius. And you might be getting hungry in there somewhere. You're not.
And we should remember all life on this planet is carbon based.
Correct.
What if we go the other way, Pete? What if we get all the solar panels and everything, and it reverses all this, and we get too cold? Then what?
Well, it seems that the science has said that CO2 doesn't drive the temperature up. The temperature going up drives CO2. So all those solar panels will create heat, and you're going to get more CO2.
Man.
And lastly, we're not allowed to manage our forest around here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, a living, managed forest takes in CO2 and produces oxygen. An old-growth, rotting forest consumes oxygen and gives off CO2. A rotting tree gobbles oxygen and gives you CO2. So if they're really worried about it, what they do is we manage our forests for one thing. You get a forest full of deadfall, like we have plenty of that around here. Deadfall up to your neck in some places.
Well, with beetle kill, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it weakens the trees, and they're more susceptible to the beetle.
Right.
So there's a lot of things to discuss, but I mean, now they're changing the words again. They started to use climate crisis, and now I heard a new one the other day, climate chaos.
Ooh.
Isn't that special?
Well, fire in the forest pops pine cones so trees can grow, and it allows the growth of tall grass on the floor of the forest. That allows growth of all kinds of animals, birds, insects, small animals, and lots of oxygen.
Yeah.
And it gets rid of the rotten stuff on the ground. It burns it up.
There you go.
It burns real hot when you got that. But that's another bit plus for managing the damn forest.
Gotta go, Pete.
Yep, have a good one, guys.
All right, thanks for the call. We'll be right back with more. We got a caller waiting chain, so if you could chat with them, we'll be right back. 12 minutes for the top of the hour. It is Monday, July 8th. We've got a caller waiting, and let's go to the phones. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, you're on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
I'll be quick about it. I was just telling Shane, back in the old days, they used to call this global warming.
Right.
And they said we'd spray our spray cans in the air and it caused the earth to heat up. All of a sudden, it's climate change, which means global cooling. So we went from warming to cooling. And the question has to be this: how does man cool the atmosphere? It destroys the argument for me. I can't remain neutral on it. There's just no way. This argument is ridiculous. So I'm going to ask the fellow that was in favor of this argument, started all this, how does man cause global cooling? That's all I got. I got to get into town.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the call. All right. Let's take another call. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, thanks for waiting. You're on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Hey, good morning, guys.
Hey.
So, people, you had a caller talking about Obama. Who do we really care what Obama did? He was an American traitor. He went on an apology tour when he first took office, apologizing for our country and the greatness of this country and things that have made this country great. So who cares about Obama if he agrees with the climate change and everything? And anyone who thinks that climate change or global warming, i.e. climate change, is real, they've been deceived. Like the other caller was just saying, how does man cool the atmosphere and everything? Climate change has been going on since time immemorial. There's an ebb and flow to the climate. And man doesn't have hardly anything to do with it except putting on sweaters and taking off jackets and things like that.
That's true.
Everything the Democrats want to do, the Green New Deal, the free college, the free medicine, they're all socialists, and everything they want to do would tax the tax burden to take care of these programs, if they were to be implemented, would be so great. It would tax the middle class out of existence. And the climate change, it's all about trying to get a carbon tax. And who the UN would want to tax the most would be the U.S. So, anyone who believes in this climate change, global warming, they've been deceived. It's not. There's an ebb and flow, and it's all about the carbon tax.
All right. Hey, thanks for the call.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye-bye. We got to get the Rush update in here, Shane, so we'll be right back. Here's Rush. 3 minutes before the top of the hour, we've had a caller patiently waiting, talking with Shane, so let's go to the phones. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, you are on the air. What's going on?
Good morning, gentlemen. It's Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Well, you're talking climate, so I had to call in. You know what convinced me to quit believing the things they tried to teach me in school? I watched the weather, and I see they can't get it right 24 hours out. And okay, the scientists have an answer. Weather is not the same thing as climate. Climate is long-term. Weather is short-term. Right. Oh, okay, so that gives them justification. But then I learned something else, and that something I learned is the very, very same weather models that the supercomputers use to predict the weather, they also use to predict the climate. 100 years out, they're using the same exact programs and configurations to predict that they do our weather for 7 days, which is always wrong.
Well, at least here it is. I don't know why I bother every morning with the weather. That's never right.
And here we are. What's the 10-day look like? Oh, it's supposed to be good. And then, 10 days later, it's
it changes.
Exact opposite.
Yeah.
But that's where I made the connection. It's pretty simple. People, they use the exact same computer models to predict 100 years as 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
How often do they get the 7 day right?
So you're saying,
I hope you.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just going to say, so you're saying that thermometer next to a blacktop driveway is okay, huh?
Oh yeah, why not? Let's inflate the numbers. Anyway, okay, I just had to say that, guys. I hope you have a great day.
Hey, we are having a super day. Hey, thanks a lot. All right. Well, we're winding down here, Shay. We got about a minute left. We got another caller coming in, so 522-TALK is the number. Calling you on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Hey, you guys, glad I got to sneak in here at the end.
You got about a minute. Go for it.
All right. Well, I can do it in a minute, hopefully. So the biggest thing is, one, watch George Carlin's comedy skit on climate change. If you YouTube it, it's hilarious, and it speaks to the whole bogusness of this thing. But the one main thing that I think people have to walk away with is all the science when they do all the ice core samples of the past is that the CO2 rises come after there have been heat waves from that big yellow thing in the sky called the sun. It's not the reverse. CO2 didn't come into the air and then it got hot. It got hot and then more CO2 was created, which then the ocean and the trees eat up. That's how nature takes care of our CO2. But that's the thing. CO2 has nothing to do with the heat rise. The CO2 is the after product of the rising temperatures. And then that will explain all the bogusness that whenever someone says that your SUV or coal or all this stuff is causing warming.
Gotta go.
Warming. All right, you guys, enjoy the day.
All right, thanks, man. Say goodbye, Shane.
Goodbye, man. Tomorrow, everyone be happy, be safe.